So obviously the vanishing point filter is all very well and good for manipulating a single plane in perspective at a time. But what if you have multiple planes going on? For example, this house right here has an awful lot of surfaces going on in it. Well, it turns out the vanishing point filter allows you to paint or edit along multiple planes as long as those planes are aligned with each other at 90-degree angles. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go up to the filter menu. I'm going to choose vanishing point. And notice that I already have a grid set up here. In fact, I have two perspective grids that are exactly aligned with each other at 90 degrees. Now, this may not look like 90 degrees, but it is in perspective. Bear that in mind. So this is a right angle. Now, how in the world did I go about doing that? Well, you know if you drag a side handle that you extend one of the planes. And I'll go ahead and extend this plane over to this wall edge right there. Well, did you know that if you press the Control key or the Command key on the Mac and drag from the side handle, that you drag out a new perspective grid that is aligned with the previous one at a right angle? So wonderful thing, obviously. You can also move each one of these guys that are exactly aligned with each other. You can extend them up to different levels as you see fit. The thing with this wall is it's very, very plain. What if I want to take this window and I want to duplicate it a few times to let a little more light into this garage? I'm going to duplicate that window using the marquee tool. So I'll go ahead and select the marquee tool for starters here. It's your one selection tool right now inside the vanishing point filter. And then I'll zoom in on the window a little bit. And now notice if I draw my rectangular marquee, I'm just creating a standard rectangle, but I'm creating it in perspective. Notice that. So in the case of this specific plane, the right and left edges are parallel, but the top and bottom edges are not. So we have a perspective flare going at this point. Now I'm going to go ahead and select tight around the window like so here. And notice if I move the marquee, notice what happens if I move this marquee around. It actually grows as it comes toward us and it shrinks as it drifts away. So very, very nice. Does exactly what you want it to do. Now, what do you do if you want to move or clone this item? Well, you'll notice toward the top of the dialog box that Photoshop is telling you how to use this tool. One of the great things about the newest functions throughout Creative Suite 2 is that they tell you how to use them. The features actually give you little hints as you move along, which is nice. So in my case, it says that I Alt-drag, or on the Mac, it would tell you to Option-drag in order to clone this item, in order to duplicate it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to Alt-drag this item. I'm also going to press the Shift key so that I am exactly aligning my movement. So I'm creating an exactly horizontal movement at this point. And now I'll let go of the mouse, and Photoshop goes ahead and creates a clone at this point in perspective, matching this wall. And if I want to do it again, I would just Shift-Alt-drag again. Now, what if I want to add a window to this side of the garage? Well, check this out. I'll go ahead and once again Shift-Alt-drag this window, and notice what happens as soon as I go around this corner, it actually bends this item onto the other perspective grid right here. Now, I do have a couple of slight problems. One is that while this window matches the perspective of this surface right here, it is not flipped properly. Notice that we're seeing this inside edge over on the left-hand side where we ought to see it on the right-hand side. Also, we're having a little bit of color matching problems at this point. This side of the house is in shadow where this window is in the light. So I'll solve the first problem first. I'll go over to the Transform tool, which allows you to scale and rotate an object in perspective. And then you've got two mysterious checkboxes here. One's flip and one's flop. And they each flip this item here, this object here, a different direction. One vertical and one horizontal with respect to the original orientation of the item. That's why they're called flip and flop, to avoid some confusion. Anyway, what I suggest you do is try one and see if it works. Well, that's obviously the wrong one, so I'll turn it off. Now I'll try flop, and flop turns out to be exactly right. There it is. We can see that edge along the right-hand side, exactly where we want it. Now let's solve the second problem, which is the color matching. I'll go back to my marquee tool. Notice this healing option up here. It not only applies to the clone tool, it also applies to selections. And I'll go ahead and switch it from off to on. And that takes care of that problem just beautifully. And even puts the window in darkness, even darkens up the interior of that window. So it does a really splendid job. Now I'm going to go ahead and zoom out here so that we can take in this entire garage. And I might as well click OK in order to accept the changes. This is the before view of these walls. This is the after view of these walls. And here's the most terrific thing of all. not only have you made all these changes to this house, to the actual image, but you're also saving vanishing point information. If you go back to the filter menu, choose the vanishing point command, you will see your grids still in place, and those grids are saved as part of the image, even if you save to a file format like JPEG. So TIFF, JPEG, Photoshop format, doesn't matter. These items will be saved along with your image.